All right, so today we're going to go through what we call the hero's journey. And this is actually a famous outline, and it's one of the most known outlines for writing. Now, last week we talked about having a beginning, middle, and an end. And we're going to take that beginning, middle, and end, and we're going to move it into what the hero's journey is. But I want us to just remember today that you are doing everything right. You cannot do this wrong. Only you can write your story. Only you have the perspective of who you are and why you are here. And the way that I like to think about writing is if I climb to the top of the mountain and I look over the valley and I write everything that I possibly can about what I see, everything that I write is very true. But imagine across the valley that Autumn standing on a mountain all the way across the valley, and she's writing the same valley from the mountain she's standing. And everything there is true too. When we have those two perspectives, we actually were a reader to read both of those, they would fully understand what the valley looks like. And then, of course, if Leanne is on another mountain, a third perspective, every little piece adds to the understanding of the landscape. And I find that sometimes when we're writing, we think, this has been written before. I'm not the best at writing. I'm not the best at this. Why does this matter? Should I even bother? And one of the best messages or one of the best guidances of advice that I got was this: don't try to be the leader, just try to be a contribution to the conversation. Because when it takes pressure off of ourselves, because I personally believe, and this is my own little woo-woo belief, but I truly do believe it. I believe in soul contracts. I believe that there are people that when we were souls and we lived in that pre-existence, whatever that was, that we come down in soul connections. And when we come down through the veil into this physical dimension. And as we do, we engage and activate contracts that we made before we came here. Now, some of those contracts are, hey, listen, I'm going to awaken passion in you. I'm going to awaken strength in you. I'm going to awaken resilience in you. And then we pass through the veil, and that might show up in different ways. Because a soul contract that would teach someone about what love is through the human experience, that person has free will and choice. And the way they might teach you what real love is what we could consider a negative way, but they also could teach us in a positive way. But I believe in the idea of soul contracts. So when we come to the writing, I believe that there are contracts that we make that we say to one another, when I come across you, I will remember. And 1,000, a million other people could say the exact same thing that you're saying, but because it's you, it will create something inside of me and I will listen. And so I believe doing our work is healing the world. And with everything that we see in modern days, where there's so many ideas out there and there's so many opinions out there, it's more important than ever that people who serve compassion, love, unity, the light, wisdom, especially women, are out there sharing, teaching, speaking, and combating this duality and to that has existed, and as well as for hundreds and thousands of years, the perspective of what life is that has only been told through the male lens and been put upon society that this is what life is. So I am passionate about writing, and to me it's very fun, and to me it's very smooth and easy. And I decided that I'm going to publish a book in the 30 days because I'm not going to ask any of you to do something that I'm not willing to do. So I'm going to also get a book done by the end of this month. And I also want you to know that right now, in this moment, as we are on this call, my formatter is currently uploading the sound healing training manual to Amazon to be live.
Oh,
First book of the
congratulations.
year published.
That's amazing. Good
Yeah,
for
and
you.
I can't say anything about it for a few days because the way that publishing goes, especially on Kindle, and I'll share all of this information with you in 2 weeks of who I use and how they do it, is they're going to run like a couple day promo on Kindle at like 99 cents to get the ball rolling. And that's how you can kind of amplify your sales and get Amazon to really see your book, is to create this snowball effect. And so I can't publicly post about that yet, but my sound healing training is coming up this month. So I wanted to get it done. And technically, I didn't do this in just 1 month. I've been doing it over the many, many years, refining that. And I was going to publish it in December, but I was too overwhelmed with my life and schedule. So here we are. But my point is to you is that this is possible. And I know this is probably crazy to say, but yesterday I also submitted my final round of editing for the TV show of Writer's Island after 3 soul-wrenching editing. Now, I haven't done editing on a lot of my books, and you should, but man, this one was just killer. So that was like I was up at 3 a.m. Sunday and I worked until 10:47 a.m. on that because my deadline was yesterday. I
Wow,
hit
that's
my
a long
deadline.
day. And then
So,
look at you today.
but I guess like why I'm sharing all of this is not to brag, it's to say it's not as hard as I feel like we put it upon ourselves to be. Now, if we want our work to be perfect, it is very hard. But if you don't want it to be perfect, you want it to be done, it is not very hard. And I want to just remind you that my best-selling book is The Moon Journal that published in October, that I published in 2022, and it had typos. And even though I had that thing edited too, the editor missed a bunch of stuff. And so I redid it, republished an updated version, and that one's currently my best-selling book. So I just want you to know, let's make you a published author. Let's put that this year, no more behind us than to just be, I am a published author this year. And I'm telling you, you could be done in the next 2 weeks. So this is exciting. All right, so let's get into, I'm going to minimize my screen a little bit. So I want to talk with us a little bit about what the hero's journey is. Let me open this up. When we're writing our books, what you should have so far, you should have, what is my message? You should have, this is my biography. Now, again, this should be one paragraph. This should not be a page. This should be, this is why I'm qualified to speak on this message. And then we're going to also move into hero's journey, but I was going to move straight into that. But instead, what I want us to do is we need to know why. Why do you feel that this message matters? Because every single time I've written a book and every single time I've written something, you go through it, you get some feedback from your editor or from beta readers, and you go, never mind, it's crap. The whole thing's crap. I'm going to throw the whole thing out. This is too hard. It's bringing up too much stuff. And our why this message matters is really important. So here's kind of the way that I want to set this up. By now, you know your message. If you could time travel back into whoever the person you were that you needed this message, because often our messages are there because we needed them at a time in our life and it wasn't there. And so we have created this message to help someone else who's finding themselves in that tunnel so they can find their way out. So you are the leader, the torch bearer, the torch holder for that person right now, who's in the trenches, who's in the darkness, who is wondering if anybody else has ever gone through this, or if anybody else has that guidance that they're looking for. So I want us to take just probably 3 minutes or so, but I want us to settle into, why is this message important? Why would it have been important to me, the one who needed it back then? Why, and whoever it is that's out there, because their higher self is calling you to do this work. Their higher self is begging your higher self to get your physical self into gear. Why do they need you? So I'm going to go ahead and just turn on some music. And I want us to just take 2-3 minutes to do this. All right. Finish up your thoughts if you can. And out of curiosity, did you guys actually hear the music? Because I still feel like
Did.
I can't get that half the time.
Yes, I did hear it.
Good.
Thank you. Yes, it was lovely.
in sound healing, and we talked about this in the membership meeting last week. So listening to instrumental music actually causes you to think better. It actually causes your brain to work better. So I want to invite both of you, and Leanne, your microphone's on. So I'm going to invite you first. If
Okay,
you'll share part of what you've written.
I sure will. Okay, I wrote, because in our life there are things that happen that can shift other people's perspective of who you are. Many times I had people say how bad I was because that was their idea of who I was. What they didn't know was I had bad things happen to me that caused my behavior or my energy to not match who I truly was. I was an innocent child that should have been protected, but was now put in a position of protecting myself and then keeping quiet. I was hiding under a barrage of other people's making and then protecting them. Acting out as well as shrinking to the point of not even seeing myself became my normal. It wasn't until I learned to own my own truth and show them, but mainly myself, who I was. I wasn't bad. I wasn't to be ashamed of myself or anything else. I was divine. I was whole, and I was free to be me.
Wow.
That's it. That's all I wrote. That's all I've written so far.
That's perfect though. That's a beautiful lie. I could feel that. Autumn, can you feel what she wrote? And to me, that is so relative. Like you're saying it from your experience, but I am here to tell you that you are saying the words of somebody else that is calling your message that they need right now. So,
Um,
so powerful. Well,
Thank you. Thank
oh,
you.
oh, I loved it. Okay, Autumn, let's hear yours.
You might hear the garbage trucks.
It's okay.
Okay. I believe plants heal. There is science that will back this up, but that's only the beginning. More importantly, there is a dormant sense within all of us, a felt knowing, a subtle perception, an attunement that happens when we are truly present. I am not saying that I hear plants. I'm saying humans were never meant to stop listening. People need permission to trust what they already sense.
That's so good.
That's all I got.
That's so good though. And I feel like what it's so vital in our time right now. There's quite a bit of uncertainty of the future right now with what's going on in our world and empowering people to understand that they can create their own medicines, tinctures, and health in their own backyard is, I feel, one of the most important things that you could be doing for the world right now. Because we don't know if we're always going to have access to pharmaceuticals. And not all pharmaceuticals are actually what they say that they are and the damage they create. So powerful. And as you're writing in your book, I want you to make a list, not a list, but I want you to have kind of on the side of when you're writing of miracles you've seen with what you've created, and make sure, especially with your work where you're going to be doing things like this, it's going to be really important that you have a solid disclaimer at the front that says, I'm not claiming healing, I'm simply sharing what I've witnessed. And that will protect you down the road. But I think it's one of the most important things that you could be sharing. And especially with your work, Autumn, what I'm doing with the publishing house is in every single book we publish, they're having us do a QR code that when people open the book, immediately people can scan the code and it links to classes and it links to online trainings. And the reason that's so important is because when people buy our books from Amazon, you have no way of tracking those clients, and you just hope that they come back to your site. But if you have that QR code and you're building that email list, and that's not this class today, so don't, if it feels like over your head for anybody on here, don't stress about that. But it's a way that you build your client list to increase sales moving forward, and to stay engaged with the people who are being touched and moved and shifted by your book. So wonderful, amazing work. Well done. I'm so happy.
you.
So I'm going to go ahead and share again, and this is where we're going to look again. I have this pulled up. If you've never heard of the hero's journey, the hero's journey is this journey that you see. It's by a book named Joseph Campbell, and I believe you can get that on Audible. I know you can get it on Amazon, and it's become kind of the have all be all end all of writing books or creating movies or telling an effective story. Whether you're writing a self-help book, even with your work, Autumn, where you're creating a book to support people, in this, the framework is the person, the primary person, whether it's you or even in a novel, they get called to an adventure. So this is the normal world. This is what they know. Think of, again, I go back to some of the iconic, the world-changing stories. So stories that have changed the world would be the Odyssey, would be Harry Potter, would be Twilight, would be Lord of Rings. These books have changed culture. Look at Comic-Cons, look at tattoos, look at like Star Wars. In fact, George Lucas followed this hero's journey to create that. And look how he changed the world through the story he wrote. Now, maybe someday all of our books will be movies. Maybe they won't. But we changed the world. Did you know that in Star Wars and even in Star Trek, that there is new technology that's been introduced in the world because they saw it in those shows and said, I wonder if we could make that. Like, we are writers change the world. So every single character starts with, this is the world that I know. This is the reality. And something calls them to an adventure. Now, that could be a problem, a situation. It could be something inside. So, with the books that you're writing, based on what you've just shared, it could be situations that you had in your family. It could be childhood circumstances, like this is what life is like. And something inside of you says it could be different. What can I do? And you're telling that story through whatever you're writing. So even if for Autumn, I'm not 100% sure the framework of your book, but even if it's recipes and even if it's things like that, tell your story along the way so people connect to how it was impactful to you, even if it's just at the beginning of things like that. So in this journey, there's always a crossing of the threshold. This is something where you have opened to a new world. So, like for me in the book that I just wrote, Sovereign Soul, I started the book and it talks about my childhood being raised and a conservative LDS background. And this was just how life was. Then I also go on to say, when my son passed away, that was the awakener where it brought me into this place where I had to do such deep soul searching, such great soul work, that what life was like before was not what I needed in order for me to survive and thrive. One of the analogies that I actually included in Sovereign Soul, but it's an analogy that I feel like of all life, is this. If you think of an egg, you have a yolk and you have an egg. So I want you to just think that. We all know what that is. Does the yolk know it's an eagle? How could it? What is that? It's just a blob. All that it knows is it's growing and it's in this enclosed space. And eventually it gets so uncomfortable, it has to break through. This little bird, this yolk, this eagle, this inside the egg has no idea it can fly. It has no idea what the sky is. It has no idea it has wings. There's no way from that framework or that understanding of life inside of an egg that it could possibly comprehend what's outside of the egg. So when we're writing, this is who I was at the beginning. This is the avatar at the beginning, the person you're talking to. Maybe you're feeling like this. Maybe like for Autumn, for your people, maybe you're wondering if there's a way to not be in the system. Maybe you're wondering if health is at my fingertips. Maybe you're saying there has to be a better way, and how can I take my health into my own power? And even if it's just daily sustenance, what if it's just herbs in your garden? Oh my gosh, I love your rosemary and basil salts, right? Like it could be as simple as that, but also it is empowering. With Leanne, it can be all of these things that say maybe you're feeling like you're different too. Maybe you're feeling like it wasn't fair what happened to you. Maybe you're feeling misjudged. Maybe this. So make it, and this is the reality. This is what I experienced, and maybe you're experiencing it too. And it finally got to a point where I said something has to change. And this is the journey I took for the herbology, for the self-mastery, for, I guess, Autumn, if you watched the video, then Leanne started her own businesses, was a mother, like all of these things. Now, through that, when you've crossed the threshold here, what you also have to say, like we all do, we start to try things. Here's what worked. Here's where I started to do this. This didn't work out, but this did. And as I was doing this, I was finding my way. So here's where you have your framework. If you did the homework from last week, ChatGPT more or less gave you an outline. Now, how can you take that outline and put this layer on top of it? How did this begin? Here's some of the trials, failures. Here's some of the growth, the skills. Did I find a mentor here? Am I finding it here? Tell the evolving story. And the death and rebirth is who you are here. You can never go back to. I don't think I can ever go back to that girl before Jonah passed and see the world in that way. I can't, I don't know how. I don't know how I can ever go back to the idea in the LDS faith. And anybody watching this video, I don't want to offend you, but I'm just telling my perspective that unless I am perfect, I can't make it to the highest heaven after death and see my son. I don't know how I can go back to that. Whether it's true or not true, it doesn't matter. I just don't know how I can go there. So the death and rebirth is something new inside of you, a core truth that evolves, this core truth that says, this is what I know. This is who I am now, and I can never go back. And you'll have a pivotal moment that you'll look back and you should be able to look at your message, look at your why, and look at that moment and say, this was the moment that changed everything. And sometimes there's minis, like 5 or 6, but there's a lot of times at crescendos too. This was the moment that I shifted. Everything shifted. And then through that, you come through this and you say, here's the changes in my life now. Here's how life's different for me now. Here's the learning that I have. Here's the achievements that I have. Not that there's not still challenges, but the ending of your story is going to come in with you as the wise one. You had a mentor and now you're the mentor. And when you're closing the book, it's like, this is what I would guide you to do. If you were this and you're starting your journey, this is how I'm giving back. And that's the hero's story of how everything comes together. So based on that, is there any questions or thoughts on this?
Is that picture that you just held up, is that in somewhere where I could scrape a picture of it?
I
Or
will,
is that just something I can grab online, I guess?
well, I grabbed
Maybe.
it online, and then on the follow-up of this call, I'll send the recording and that graphic.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So I know it can feel complicated when you're writing a book, especially if you're going to add all these layers, but I'm not I don't want you to start overthinking it because you already have all of the content, you already have all of the knowing, you already have all of the information. It is ready to go. Why I'm offering you the ChatGPT outline, why I'm offering you the hero's journey outline is not for you to start going, wait, does this fit? It's because you already have the information. It's like if I brought you a big tote of those little balls that are in jump houses and I said, now organize this into orange, yellow, green, blue. You already have the balls. So this framework is a successful framework. So when you're writing, you say, where does this fit in? Does this fit in the beginning? Does this fit in the middle? Does this fit in the end? That's the only reason I'm giving you this framework, not to keep you stuck or not to make you feel stuck, but so that when you're writing and you're divinely writing, you know where that writing fits in the flow of the story. Thoughts on that?
Yes. And more of a question. So my book, I mean, this started only as a reference book.
Mhm.
So when I did the exercises from your first video, um, of course, it gave me more of an awakening or an awareness of what's behind the reason for doing it. But my original intention was this, with this particular book being my first one, is to keep it really simple.
Okay.
Really simple, like a reference book. It has a picture of the plant, it has a description of the plant, it has some medicinal uses for the plant, and then there's a section at the back that gives some rituals if you want
Nice.
to use it for a magical purpose, right? So when I answer all of these questions, like a lot of awarenesses came to me, but I'm not sure that I necessarily want to turn this into a story about it,
Okay.
or even about my why, or the story of how it all came to be, because at this point in time in my life, I'm really looking at my first book being really easy, really
Okay.
simple.
So my Year of the Moons book is that my bestseller.
Yes. Yes.
So if I was doing your book and don't take this as the way you should do it because I don't have the knowledge you do. I have like this, what you do is not my strength even at all. But if I was writing the book, probably what I would do if you don't want it to be personal is I would still say, okay, here is my reference book. And it would say like a prologue, which would be kind of an intention, and it would be your why. Right now, I know that we need to bring this into our lives. I know that the average person, whether you have a big backyard or whether you don't, or you have a patio terrace or simply a window that you can place potted plants under, you can take your health and start to change your life naturally. So that's where I would say that is where I would say this is possible. And then I would still include that I have 35 years of experience in teaching, finessing, and doing this. I've trained in many multiple ways, but I've also taken guidance and recipes that were given me, and I've modified and adjusted them, watching their effectiveness, right? Like I've noticed that it's kind of like if I add just a little bit here or steep it a little more, these are personal. So, and just say, also, I'm going to run you through some meditations on how you can tune into what's right for you. I want to show you a little bit about body testing on when you're picking up herbs or what to plant, what maybe is the right thing for you. So you could say, and so you want to share your background. And I still feel like the hero's journey fits into that because I could still say that you could say, I was raised in in the same society you were, where if you're sick, you go to the doctor and you take an Advil or you take an ibuprofen or you have something prescribed to you, because that's what's conditioned to us in our society. But as I've grown and matured and as I've developed my intuitive work, I've also realized that there's so much we can do for ourselves. So you're still showing that journey, even if it's just a paragraph. And so if I was doing that, I'd still set the book up with a few pages like that. And then I would say, here's how the book works. Here are seasonal things that you can plant for the seasons. And because like if I was doing it, I'd be like, I need to know spring, summer, winter, fall, what I should be doing for this, because spring would be the times of planting and then summer would be harvesting, but you would kind of do a scope of that. But because winter would be the time that you're making the soups, that you're making the tinctures, or whatever. Like I said, I don't know. So you could have the 4 seasons. And then you could also have specific spring recipes, specific summer recipes, specific this. And then you could have, what are some of the most common ailments that we see in the spring? Allergies, common ailments you see in the fall, allergies. And then what are some of the common colds? What about common things for women's hormones, so kind of, because you could even apply another layer of that if you wanted to bring up like the maiden, the mother, the matriarch. Here's some of the things that you're seeing, and this is, things for that. And then you could say, here's some ways that I use these in ritual. Here's some places that I gather. If you're gathering water, here's how you can do it respectfully, those kinds of things. So it's not deeply personal for you in terms of like my moon book doesn't say anything about my life, but it does follow a framework. And so that's probably how I would do it. I would use AI to build all your graphics one at a time so that you have the copyrights on it.
I already did that.
Yeah, so you're ready to go with that. Make sure on all of your books that you have a really good headshot on the back. People recognize your face.
That would
Also,
be you.
yes, I know.
You
And
already did that.
yeah, and so if it's not a deeply personal thing, this is I don't want to say easy stuff, Autumn, because I know that this has taken decades to create, but you've taken decades to create. So now it's just organizing and following a pattern of every recipe, every single process gets posted in the exact same way, you know? So it's the same, like I'm creating the book that I'm creating this month is all these meditations that I ran everybody through in December. I'm creating a book listing the meditations, how to use them, how to record them, kind of like Life Vision, but it's not Life Vision, where I kind of say how I do it. And then it will link them to my free meditation series where I can capture their email. But every single meditation is between 8 to 11 minutes. Every single one starts with the breath. Then so it follows a framework, even though every single one is different. And so when you're writing a book like that, you need to have it in the same framework. When I wrote the moon book, every single one is, here's the moon, the wolf moon is this, here's what you do for new moon, here's what you do for full moon, here's some journal prompts, here's some crystals, right? And so like, even though every single one's different, it has the framework. And ChatGPT can do that for you. I just tell them, okay, this is the framework that I want. Do it. And you'll get this done. This is going to be so exciting for you. I mean, for everybody, but with what you have, it's one of the easiest to do. I'm so excited for you because Leanne and then our other student on here, when we're going into soul work and you're like writing and you're crying your eyes out like this memory is too hard. That's hard. Leanne, you've done it this week, I bet.
Right. I've kind of been working in the screenplay aspect because I actually went to Weber university to study that sort of thing. And so I'm doing like bullet points and
So
trying
you're
to,
able to separate enough.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Sometimes. I mean, there's things I think about, especially that, strike an emotional chord.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Now,
Um,
next week, just so you know, because again, this week I need you, encourage and invite all of you to be taking that time at least an hour a day to get this done. But that's aside, it's not you don't have to get locked on the hour, by the way. Some of this could be done faster, but set that time apart in your schedule so it does get done. And next week, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you some coaching on how to take what you've written and go deeper, going into the emotions of it and some techniques that will draw the reader in for that. So, because once we have the framework and the why and all of these and the message, because everything written has to bump up against the why and what the message is, then now I want you to be able to bring the person deeper into this. And this will still work for what you're doing, Autumn, too, because we'll still work on that too. Now, what I want to do today, though, is I have created a meditation for you, and it's just very brief. And I'm going to send the audio track in the follow-up that you can listen to before you write. But we're going to go through this really quick. And then I want us all to write for about 5-6 minutes. And then we're going to share what we've written, because I find that a lot of times when we step into the place of writing, it can feel overwhelming. Did I glitch? Can you guys hear me okay? All right. My screen glitched. So go ahead for a moment and just settle in to wherever you need to be. And I want you to just relax. Now I'm going to walk through this, and this is the exact meditation you're going to get. Make sure your hands are clear. All right. Take a gentle inhale through your nose. Release it softly through the mouth. Breathe in clarity. Exhale tension. With each breath, arrive more fully in the self. Bring your awareness to your heart. Allow these affirmations to flow over you and through you. I am aligned with divine wisdom. I am guided in what I write and how I express. My consciousness is clear and receptive. I release fear. I release doubt. I release the need to control the outcome. I trust the intelligence moving through me. I now visualize pure white, golden light forming above me in the highest light from the highest realm. This light begins to pour gently downward like a soft, radiant waterfall. It flows over the crown of my head, clearing my mind. I feel my thoughts become spacious and calm. Any confusion dissolves. Clarity remains. The light moves through my face, my throat, my chest, opening my voice, my breath, my heart. I feel safety in expression. I feel permission to speak the truth. This golden light flows down my arms, through my elbows, into my hands and fingertips. My hands become instruments of wisdom. Words flow easily through me and onto the page. The light continues downward through my torso, clearing my body of any stored tension, fear, or resistance. It moves through my hips, legs, and feet, anchoring me deeply to the earth. I feel grounded. I feel supported. I am connected from the highest realms to the living earth beneath me. This light clears away any debris, confusion, self-sabotage, or creative blocks. What no longer serves my writing dissolves effortlessly. What remains is truth, purpose, and clarity. My gifts stabilize. My message strengthens. My purpose aligns. My writing is guided. My intuition is strong. I trust what comes through me. I write with ease. I write with honesty. I write with courage. The right words arrive at the right time. I am a clear channel for wisdom. Take one slow, deep breath in. Release it gently. Allow this light to remain as you write. When you are ready, I'm going to turn on some music and we're going to take 5 minutes. And I want you to tune into your heart now that you're clear and aligned and answer the question, what is the message I'm here to write today? And let anything come just today, just now. All right. So the purpose of this practice was for us to get into practice in allowing words to come through without hardship, with ease. So this time we have just enough time. If Autumn, you'd be willing to share what came in through for you.
Yeah. If you hear dinging, I'm sorry. My husband is in and out and he's got the alarm on and
I don't hear it at all, just so you
you
know.
may. He just came home, so okay. My message is a remembering for myself, and perhaps others will remember for themselves also. That medicine doesn't come from extracting, using, consuming, or mastering plant medicine. It comes from building a relationship with, can't read my own writing, with this aspect, with this. This aspect alone reframes healing and how it happens. It does not happen from gaining dominion over nature. It's not even a spiritual bypass like, what can this plant do for me? It's more about what really happens when we meet one another with full attention.
That's so good. What I feel like the main message for you was what I heard is we are all part of this. They're not separate from us. We're in this constant communion with this, and what comes to mind also when you say that, or when you've written what you've written, is just the understanding that we breathe the trees and we are shaped like the trees. And I don't know if that could fit in there somewhere, but I think it really shares, like, everything that you're saying is this is not separate from us.
Right.
This is actually part of us and it's natural to us.
Yeah.
Well done. And did it flow through?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, Leanne, we should have enough time for you to share what came through for you.
Okay. I am to write what is true to my story, capturing the essence of my story, from the beginning with suffering to the awakening, or stifling that suffering in order to survive each day. I'm listening to my memory, my body, as it felt in those moments of hiding, of compartmentalizing all of the protections I put in place in order to function. I'm telling the story of a girl who was at a small age and in her first awareness of herself in this life, how she didn't like it here. She was yearning to return to the heavenly place she came from, even though she wasn't sure what or where that was. Looking into the mirror and seeing her own eyes, she was remembering a place that was filled with joy, with ease, and knew she was now in a place of sadness, of coldness, of orderly cleanliness that was devoid of something else. There was no laughter, except in a few and far between places. Still, that yearning she longed for seemed so far away. How on earth was she going to create what she so longed for in this world when she was but so small and so insignificant? How was she going to rise above all the madness?
Wow. That's your beginning.
That's
Wow.
my beginning, yes.
Yeah. Wow. I can just I can just sense all of the women whose inner child needs healing. That's calling this forth. Well done. And in
Thank
just
you.
5 minutes, ladies, I feel like both of you shared messages that have changed all of us for the better. That was easy.
Can I say about Leanne?
Pardon me?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Leanne, the thing that stood out for me in just that brief moment was you give the reader this vision that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and there is hope and you did survive.
Mm,
Oh, yes.
that's a key
Yeah.
part. I'm glad you
Mhm.
brought that up. Good job.
Right. Thank you.
So this week is all about seeing how, so first of all, continue your writing. See how the hero's journey fits. Maybe it doesn't, maybe it doesn't, but how does it fit somewhere, like autumn in your beginning? But even with the stories that you're telling with the plants, you are actually saying this is the hero's journey. You're encouraging people to take power into their own hands. So they're living that journey. So that's a layer that's over the work there. I'll send that meditation if it's helpful. I tried to make it just about 4 minutes so that it's something that if you're feeling blocked or you're ready to write, create your own. But it's simple to just flood and flush so you can be clear and aligned. I find a lot of times before I write, I'm drumming or using my singing bowl to clear my energy so that I am aligned when I write. And next week, we're going to learn how to, when we're writing and with what we've written, to make it more impactful. So I will let you go. Thank you for being here today. I'll send you everything in an email.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Leanne, I'll see you on the membership call in 2 seconds on my other link. Okay.
Okay, I need to take about a 5-minute break.
Okay. Perfect. All right.
Thank you.
See you, ladies.
Okay. Bye-bye.